doesn't feel right for me to just take over. I'd rather Brother Diggs do it.
Good morning, everybody. Today, if you look at your schedule, the session is supposed to be on algorithms and whatever, and influences dealing with computers and social media and all that stuff. And I've seen Lukas do a session at a men's meeting, and it was very, very astounding. So I admonish everybody to pay attention, parents, kids, because even as a parent, I was like, wow, so much stuff that I didn't know or that I thought a certain way. And when he was speaking on it and bringing it out, it really, really enlightened me. So Lukas Coffey from, you ain't in Virginia no more. He's in Hickory, North Carolina.
Thanks, Brother Diggs. Appreciate it. Yeah, like Brother Diggs said, I'm from Hickory. I go to Brother Barry Coffey's church. I'm not a minister, so y'all can relax. Look, I got my sneakers on. I'm comfortable. I'm relaxed, so y'all can just sit back and relax with me. That makes me feel better if you do that. So I'm like I said, I'm not a minister. I'm a guy who really loves the Lord, and I happen to know a good bit about computers, and I happen to work in this area of algorithms and just like a lot of techie stuff. So I'm trying to use my gift as much as I can for the Lord, and hopefully this is a blessing for y'all. So I also really appreciate Brother Diggs asking me to come. It's a real honor. I have a lot of respect, just a ton of respect for Brother Diggs. He's like family to us back up in Hickory. So we love him a lot. So this is a real blessing to be able to come. So we'll go ahead and jump in, I guess. So this whole session is not necessarily trying to tell you to get rid of your phone. If you want to get rid of your phone, you can, but I'm not telling you to get rid of your phone or your device. We live in a world where the internet is a part of our lives now. We have to use it. It's a blessing and it's a curse. We're able to live stream services, and we have the message available at our fingertips, but also we've got a lot of other things that we don't really need at our fingertips as well. So this is kind of geared towards just enlightening us a little bit and giving us a little bit more information so that we can fight back against what the devil is currently trying to use to get us off the right path. So I call this algorithms and influences, and there's a ton packed into here. I just kind of scratched the surface, and I'll try to keep this short. Like I said, hopefully this doesn't bore you too much. I'm not a minister. I'm just an engineer. But there's not going to be any math. Don't worry. You're not going to have to do any math or anything like that. No math on a Saturday morning. So you don't have to turn to it, but my scripture verse is Proverbs 27:20. It says, "Hell and destruction are never full, and so the eyes of man are never satisfied." And so how many times do we see this in today's world and in so many different things? Today's world is just never satisfied. Nothing is ever good enough. We never go far enough. And so the goal for today's talk is to raise awareness about the online world and the effects of social media. The effects of social media use among adults, teens, kids, and the whole purpose of learning about this topic is to further our relationship with Jesus Christ. At the end of the day, that's all we care about. That's all we should care about. And so I'm using this topic to kind of highlight some things that we can do to hopefully grow closer to Jesus. That should be our end goal at the end of the day. So I'll define a couple terms here at the beginning. First of all, what is an algorithm? Well, an algorithm, can I get a volunteer? Can I get a volunteer? You. All right. Come right out here to the side. Okay, so this is all an algorithm is, okay? So when I say go, I want you to walk 2 steps that way and then 2 steps that way. All right, ready? Go. Perfect. All right. So you just followed, give me 5. You just followed an algorithm. That's what it is. You can go sit down. You're good. Thank you. That's all an algorithm is. You tell a computer, follow these steps and accomplish this thing that I want you to do. So when we write an algorithm, or you hear a term, an algorithm, it's just a series of steps. Sometimes there's a lot of steps and it's really complicated that you're telling a computer to do to get you to do something or get the computer to do something or give something to a user or to somebody. So that's all an algorithm is. Sometimes it's math, sometimes it's code, just depends. But it's nothing to be scared of or intimidated by. An influencer, you probably have heard of an influencer by now, but it's just somebody who creates content. An influencer is anybody that creates content and has a following online of some sort. It's also a content creator, or called a content creator. So they're the ones that generate content for us to consume on social media and online everywhere. A user is somebody like us. When you open up Facebook and you scroll through Facebook, you are a user using Facebook. That's all it is. A platform. A platform is just like an app that a company builds. So a platform is a way to use the internet or a way to interact with the internet. So companies have built certain tools like Facebook or like Instagram or something like that. Those are platforms and ways for us to interact with the internet and interact with all the content and people on the internet. Social media is more specifically a platform that allows us to create and share content and communicate with other people around the world. So this is kind of the blessing and the curse. We can communicate with lots of people all over the world, but we can also communicate with lots of people all over the world, which can be bad in some cases. So that's all social media is. It's just a way to share and create things and talk to other people. Engagement. This is a term that will pop up a little bit. Engagement is anytime you interact with an application or you interact with your phone or something, you're engaging with your phone. You're engaging with your laptop or your device. That's called engagement. So anytime you scroll, anytime you click, that's a certain kind of engagement. So social media, I want to break this down a little bit more. This is not necessarily just a certain number of apps. This is not just Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm not limiting it to that. I think of social media as any sort of, any application with text or videos or audio content that's shared with people in any kind of format or any kind of group forum. So this could be news outlets. That falls in this category. Gaming falls in this category. If you play online games, that falls in here. Music falls into this category. So there's a lot of different things that fall into this category, in my opinion. And it can be accessed from any device that has internet access. So, you can browse the internet on an Xbox. It's easy. You can browse it on a Nintendo Switch. As long as it can access the internet, you can get access to social media, and you can get access to almost anything the internet has to offer. So we all has anybody ever said, like, oh, you know what? I wish I didn't have to have my phone. I wish my phone was annoying. Has anybody ever said that? Some people. It's okay if you haven't. Hopefully you're already fixed and you don't even need this talk. But I sure did. I get frustrated with my phone sometimes, and I just get annoyed with how much I use it and how much I want it. That's kind of the annoying thing, is how much I really want to get on my phone, how much I want to open something up, right? So as we start to look at the issue, we realize that there's two things going on. We have access to the internet, so we can pull up our phone and say, well, I got my phone. I'm going to look at the internet. That's number one. But as soon as you do that, then number two comes into play, and now the internet has access to you. So the internet then can show you whatever it thinks you want to see, and can basically display whatever it wants. There's no limits now that you've opened the door. Think of this as a doorway into another world, basically, and so that other things can come through to you through that doorway. So I also want you to think through that, because we are the ones taking the action, opening up our phones, the platform itself is not the problem. Like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, that's not really the issue. The misuse of the platform is the issue. So there are people who are not believers who are putting content out onto these platforms, and then we are then ingesting that. So it's not necessarily the platform itself, it's how the platforms are being used. And we can't always trust that everybody has good intentions when they're using social media or when they're using the internet in general. And we're part of the problem because we give our phones and we give our devices, we give apps time and space. So I don't know if anybody here plays sports, but one concept in defense in sports is you want to take away time and space from the opposing team, right? So if a team has got like I really enjoy hockey, and so whenever a team has got the puck, if they have time to play, if they got time to skate around and play and pass it, that's bad. So I want to take away their time and their space. And it's kind of the same thing applies here with your devices. You have time to give to your device, and you have space. You have free space in your head where that can come in and sit. Because anytime you see anything, anytime you look around, all of that's getting stored in your brain somehow, right? So you got a lot of storage in your brain. And so when you give your phone time and space, or you give your devices and social media time and space, that's part of the issue. So we have to find a way to fix that. I'll gloss over this a little bit. The devil has basically used like capitalism and kind of our society against us, and they just kind of worked it to where it's advantageous for us to engage with the wrong thing out there. So companies themselves are not the bad guys. Companies like Facebook, they're just trying to make money, but they make money off of us, and they take advantage of. And like I said, I believe the devil has used this to take advantage of us and take advantage of our time and steal our time through these platforms. So they're not exactly the enemy. The enemy really is the devil, and inside of us, that we're our own worst enemy in this case, right? So social media and all this is just kind of amplifying a problem that we already have as human beings. So I want you to change your thinking from looking at the device, looking at the phone on its own, or looking at a specific app or anything like that, and look at yourself. And for the parents, I also want you to think of this whole talk in terms of both yourself as an adult and in terms of your kids and what your kids are seeing and how all of this affects your children. This scares me, thinking about having kids and thinking of all the things that they're going to be exposed to that's out there on the internet. That's really scary to me because there's just so much out there for them to get into. But zoom out a little bit, and instead of looking at your phone, instead of looking at the social media platform, look at yourself and look at how it affects you, and look at how it affects your relationship with God. And at the end of the day, this is kind of the thing we want to do is Philippians 4:8. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, pure, lovely, good report. If there be any virtue or if there be any praise, think on these things. Well, if we're honest with ourselves, how many reels or shorts or posts or Pinterest posts do we look at that perfectly line up with this verse, right? So, like I said, it's a very slippery slope. There's just so much out there that there's so much to take in, and it doesn't all always line up with this. So we just need to be honest with ourselves. And on the flip side too, we always hear that term like within one click, anything is available. This is really true. If you open up Instagram, this is legitimately within one click. All these red boxes. Sorry if you're not able to read this. I should have made this a little bit better contrast. But the red boxes over there, that's content that's either like, ooh, I shouldn't click on that, or very likely to lead to something that is inappropriate. So it's either inappropriate or likely to lead to something inappropriate. And that's just that. I haven't had Instagram for a long time, but this was just on my Instagram account. Who knows what's on everybody else's? I don't know. But Instagram, as we'll see, Instagram and these platforms can kind of figure out, oh hey, you're a young 20-something year old. You're probably going to like this kind of post. So they figure that out, and they want to give you more content like that, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is Snapchat, the same kind of thing. It's doing the exact same thing. So this is either content where I would have to be like, oh, whoa, shouldn't look at that, or shouldn't click on that, or very likely to lead to content like that. And this is all within one click of opening up the application. So when we say like the wrong thing, or like pornography, or bad content is within one click, that's literal. It's very literally within one click. So it's at our fingertips, and the devil has made it so easy for us to get access to this and get access to the wrong thing. So this is probably the most math that we'll have to do this morning, which again is none. we're going to talk about how an algorithm works. So we already had a simple example. My friend helped me out, and we know that it's a series of steps, right? So behind the scenes, what exactly is the algorithm trying to do, and how is it, when you click on something, or maybe you think, I would like to go to this place in the world, and then all of a sudden this post pops up that says, oh, you know what? Here's what that place in the world looks like. How does it know? How does it know what you want to do? How does it know what you're thinking? Well, in a nutshell, us as users, we are categorized into buckets. So for me, I'm 27, and I'm a male, and so it says, okay, you know what? We're going to put Lukas in the 27-year-old male bucket. So I'm now in this bucket, and I'm categorized with a bunch of other people that are using the app as a 27-year-old male. So I am a 27-year-old male, and let's say I like hockey, right? So I like hockey, and there's some other, believe it or not, there's some other 27-year-old males out there that also like hockey. So they also get put in the same bucket. But I also like, let's say I also enjoy basketball. Well, if I enjoy basketball, and I'm in this bucket of 27-year-old males, then the algorithm is going to look at that and say, okay, you're in bucket A, which is, the hockey bucket. But if you like that, then maybe somebody else in this other bucket, in this other bucket B, maybe you're going to like the content out of this other bucket as well. So it says, okay, you are in this one bucket, but people, and you also like, basketball and sports and stuff like this. So people like you, 27-year-old males, also liked content out of this other bucket, bucket B. So it says, you know what? Let's try giving Lukas content out of bucket B. Let's see if he likes it. And so then it feeds you that content. So then it learns over time, and over time the scientists and the engineers behind this have gotten really, really good at pinpointing what people like and people's habits and behaviors. And so they figure out like how all these buckets tie together, and what you're likely to enjoy, or what you are very likely to want to see these different buckets. So if I enjoy hockey, then it's very likely that I'm going to enjoy, other winter sports or something like that. So it's going to want to give me more content out of that winter sports bucket. And the whole goal is to give you more and keep you entertained, keep you engaged. Remember that term engagement keeps you doing things on the screen, right? So you can actually see an example of this if you go on Instagram at like the bottom of your stories, at the bottom of a reel. The content that you like is heavily influenced by your friends. So let's say like I'm a 27-year-old male, and there's other 27-year-old males in the world, right? But if I am friends with other 27-year-old males, then it's likely that I'm going to be doing the same thing that those friends are doing, right? So they get weighed heavily. So whatever I get suggested and whatever I see online is very heavily influenced by your friends, not just what you click on. It's influenced by what you click on, but also by your friends as well. So in the bottom of some reels, you can see this post was liked by XYZ and a few others. So it's telling you like, hey, you're seeing this because your friend liked this, and we think you may like it as well. It's similar to you. So it's looking at kind of all those things behind the scenes, and it's like looking at your age, it's looking at kind of your habits, how long you spend online. It's looking at a lot of different things to try to pinpoint patterns. Funny thing is, you can only do this with huge amounts of data. You can only basically, all of this only works if people spend loads and loads of time on the internet and on social media. So the only way they're able to train algorithms and figure out algorithms and ways to do this is because we gave them enough time to be able to learn how to do it. So we kind of created this problem for ourselves, right? Super interesting. So platforms and like social media and everything, they're tracking everything you do. So any of your likes, anything you click on, any of your comments, they track how far you scrolled. They track when you stop scrolling. So if you're scrolling through Instagram, or you're scrolling, you're doom scrolling, and you keep scrolling, and then you see something you like and you pause, there's a timer that starts, and that's called dwell time. So that is how long you dwelled and like thought about the thing that you were looking at before you either kept scrolling or clicked on the thing again. So all of these things contribute to the bucket you're placed in. And again, these buckets get very, very complicated and very sophisticated, but they're really good at this. All of these different tactics and everything are designed to maximize engagement and maximize the amount of time that you spend on the screen. They want to entertain you. They want to keep you distracted. More screen time means more eyes, means more engagement, more money. And it should be more screen time, more ad time, because your eyes are on the screen and you can see ads and you can see sponsorships and everything, which means more money for everybody involved. This one is actually kind of scary. There's this whole field called attention engineering, and there's also the field of game theory. And both of these fields are used heavily by large companies to increase engagement. These are the same concepts and tools that are used by casinos and video games, highly addictive video games, to keep people addicted and keep people involved in whatever they're doing. So they're using the same concept as like a slot machine and as a casino to keep you addicted to your phone. And that's not a conspiracy theory or anything. That's very well known that they hire attention engineers and game theorists to help them figure out and make these algorithms better, improve the buckets, if you will. But that engagement quickly turns into an addiction. So at this point in our lives, it's not if we are addicted to our device or to a social media platform, it's how much are we addicted. Because to some extent we use some kind of platform, some device, and we're used to just pulling it out of our pockets, checking. You know what? I didn't check enough. Let me check again. And then I've found myself just opening my phone, checking my email, and then closing that, and then just opening email right up again because it's so habitual. I just check my email. I know there's no new emails, but it's habitual. And that's actually the sign of an addiction, because it's so habitual and you feel like you need it all the time. So this engagement and them trying to increase engagement, this quickly turns into addiction and feeding the wrong things, really. So there's this other idea, along with algorithms, there's also influencers. I talked about influencers earlier. They're just content creators, so they're making videos and posts and all kinds of stuff to put on social media. And they're really important because without content, the algorithm has nothing to give users. So algorithms are analyzing us and looking and seeing what we want to see online, and they suggest the content that we want to see. And then influencers watch those buckets and watch kind of what people want to see, and they create content that caters to that. So they are constantly looking and saying, okay, my followers or my users want to see more of this, so I'm going to create more content that caters to that. So they're paying attention to the algorithm, which is then paying attention to us, and then we're paying attention to the influencer, and so it's a whole cycle. So influencers introduce this kind of human relationship to our phones. They introduce just a personal connection to, again, I keep saying phones, but I mean any kind of device, but they introduce a personal human connection to what we see online. So we connect with them probably in some way. If you follow somebody, you connect with them in some way. Either you really like them and you really want to be like them, or you really dislike them and you really want to you're really annoyed by them. That's still a connection in some way. So they introduce this connection, and they also introduce kind of this peer pressure factor. So, if you see an influencer that says, they're wearing something, and you say, oh, you know what? I trust this influencer. They have a lot of followers, so they really must know what they're talking about. So everybody else is going to start wearing that, so I should probably start wearing that too. It's kind of it's not peer pressure technically, but it kind of is peer pressure because you are looking at that, you trust them, and you think, okay, I need to do the thing that they're doing. So that's kind of what influencers bring to the table, or content creators. I already mentioned this, that influencers pay attention to the buckets, and they analyze habits, and they create more content. More followers means more influence, which means more sponsorships, which means more money. So at the end of the day, it comes back down to money for them. And the problem is that all this content is being created by influencers, but we know that we are all born in sin, and we are all fallen beings, right? And most, like a majority of the content, like 99 point something percent of the content you see online is created by non-believers. So they are not bound to our same moral standards, and they'll do whatever they need to do to attract and retain more audience. So to varying degrees of extent. So this often can include, dirty jokes, dirty humor, graphic language, sexual and pornographic content, often gambling, drugs, and alcohol. Lots of very adult themes, and even though they're adult themes, just because you're an adult in the message doesn't mean that you need to be looking at the adult themes. This is constantly in all of this content that we see to varying degrees of like severity. Like sometimes it's maybe it's just like a slang word, or sometimes maybe it's a really bad word. There's different levels to it, but it all kind of dulls our senses. It's all designed to just dull our senses and make us not, just make us less sensitive to what's out there. So by looking at more and more and more and more and more of this, it slowly dulled us over time. So we let a little bit more in, and we let a little bit more in. And influencers also, they don't necessarily need to tell the truth. So just because an influencer said it or it's posted online doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So be very careful with what you believe and what you hear, because again, they're not bound to like the same rules as like companies of false advertising and stuff. They can kind of do what they want and post it online to some extent, but they don't always need to tell the truth or be accurate. So some examples of this. Here's a kind of a more negative example. So let's say a young guy, or a example of the bucket analogy. So let's say that there's a guy who really likes cars, right? And a guy who likes cars is in bucket A. Well, there's a bunch of other guys who are, let's say it's a believer that's in this bucket. There's a bunch of other guys that are not believers in bucket A that also like cars. But all those other guys that are not believers, they're also in this other bucket of bucket B, which is an account of a female model that poses with cars, right? So now you've got this algorithm looking and saying, oh, look, here's a guy. The algorithm doesn't care that you're a believer. It's just looking and saying, oh, it's another guy that likes cars, so he's probably going to like this other account with all of these female models, and it's going to suggest that and put that over your algorithm or over your suggested content, just because of the similarity that's there. So again, it doesn't really care that you are a believer. It doesn't really care what you think you want to see. It's going to put what it thinks you wants to see, not what you actually want to see. Another example of news and media. So this is a fun example. So when something gets posted, some kind of news gets posted about somebody in politics or policy or something like that, and then everybody goes nuts in the comments and they get real mad and they put comments and they're real angry, and then some people are like, no, this side's better, no, this side's better, and everybody's going back and forth. The platform loves that, because what's happening is you are engaging because you're posting comments, or not you, I'm sure it's not you, but whoever's posting is posting more content. So then what's going to happen is they're engaging with this content, so then the platform looks at it, or the algorithm says, ooh, they really like that content. They posted so many comments. They're angry, but they're comments, so I'm going to give you more of them. So it's going to give you more content that is probably going to make you angry and make you want to comment more on that post. And it's going to give you another one. It's like, yes, we're on a roll. Okay, let's give you more and more and more. So then it's just going to keep making you angry. And then by the time you put your phone down, you're just like you're anxious, you're angry, you're tired, you're exhausted because you've been arguing with people all day. That's what can happen, is more of this content basically puts you in a loop of, I didn't really like this content, but I engaged with it. So then the algorithm sees engagement, so it's going to give you more of it, and then you still don't like it, and then it just keeps happening over and over again. So that's one of my favorite examples, is just people getting mad online. That's kind of fun sometimes. So let's talk a little bit real quick about the effects of social media, and kind of bring into perspective how much we actually use phones every day. These stats might be actually a little bit outdated, not by much, probably by like a year. But things change a lot in the year in the digital world. So 51% of teenagers in the U.S. spend at least 4 hours a day on social media. That's half a workday. That's so much time. That's so much time to spend on social media. Girls happen to exceed the average. And so 4.8 hours is the average number of hours teens spend online every day. So this is not necessarily social media. Well, it could be social media, it could be games, it could be anything on the internet. It's almost 5 hours every single day. That's more than half a workday. That's crazy. So that's how much time that kids and teens are spending online. And this is not just teens, this goes down to kids as well. And if kids have, kids younger than 12 have access to phones and to the internet, this includes them as well. But teens that spend 3 or more hours per day on social media have an increased risk of mental health struggles and dealing with things like anxiety and depression and all those kind of things. So teens spending 3 or more hours have an increased risk. Well, the two numbers on top are 4 hours a day on average and 5 hours a day on average. So we're kind of past the threshold of everybody having mental health problems, right? And as somebody who struggled with anxiety in the past, and I believe the Lord's really delivered me from that, I can attest to how difficult this is to deal with and how just how dark it feels to be in a prison of a mental health struggle. It's a very difficult place to be, and a lot of what we use and a lot of the social media and things that we use on a daily basis they contribute to that. So nobody's immune to this. The devil is very smart and is very cunning. Believers are also susceptible to these things and to mental health struggles. If we can give more time, as I'll talk about in a little bit, the more time we give to this, the more time the devil has to work through that. The more time and space we give to the devil and the other side. So this is one of my favorite things to show. So each one of these little circles is a month of time. So every single one of those little circles is a month in an average person's life. I think this is like I can't remember. I think it's like an 80-year-old, I think. So over the course of your life, these are color-coded by what you do in your lifetime. So all the blue dots up there at the top, that's how many months you spend sleeping, which is pretty awesome. I could use a few more of those. And then this next one, the green one, the little green dots, oops, I lost some. Did I break some? Okay, we're good. Never mind. Scratch that. The green is how much time we spend in work and school. The blue dots, that's how much time we spend in the bathroom. And then the orange, that's how much time we spend driving. So this is kind of a map of where you'll spend your time over the course of your life. For the average person, not everybody's the same, but this is for the average person. All these black dots down here and those white dots at the bottom, that's how much free time we have. So once we get done with school and when we're not sleeping and when we're not eating, that's how much free time we have. All of those black dots, that's the amount of time that the average 18-year-old is on pace to spend looking at a screen. So all of that free time down there, that's how much time they will spend looking at a screen. And again, that's the average 18-year-old. So there are teens that will spend more time on their screen. There are teens that will spend less time on their screen. That's crazy. I mean, each one of those dots is a month of time, an entire month of time. That's incredible. That's more time than we've spent sleeping across the whole lifespan over your whole life. That's just crazy to me. And so the previous stats that I showed also don't include a lot of the much more serious effects of sexual extortion, drug trafficking, bullying, suicide that are a result of social media use that go on every single day. You don't see these as much just because, they may not come over your algorithm or you may not see them in the news. But these happen every single day, and a lot of these things happen as a result of continuous usage of social media every day. And most importantly, that does not include the effect on our spiritual life. So we can't measure the effect of social media on our spiritual life. Only you can do that. Only you can do that, and only you can change that and look to the Lord to change that. And like I mentioned earlier, believers are not immune from all these things. We are all susceptible to this. So I have two stories, like sobering stories. I gave this talk somewhere else, and a young guy came up to me, a really good young kid, believer. He came up to me and he said he didn't have a lot of his parents didn't do a lot to restrict what he did on his phone. It didn't really watch what he did on his phone. And so he's kind of like a prankster. He's a fun guy, but he's kind of a prankster. He likes to pull pranks on people and do stuff like that. So have you ever gotten one of those messages on your phone that's like, hey, join this group, or hey, do this thing, and it's like a random phone number. It's a spam phone number. Well, he got one of those one time on WhatsApp, and it was like a big group of people. And so he figured, oh, you know what? I'm going to prank them back. I'm going to message them back. And long story short, he started messaging them back and forth, and somebody else in this group that he was a part of messaged him and was like, hey, what you said was funny. And they started talking, and it was a girl, just some random girl that was in this group as well. So they started talking, and they kept talking, and basically this turned into a completely online romantic relationship, just because he wanted to play a prank on somebody else, and this girl saw it, and they started talking, and then they got into this relationship. Well, the girl just up and left and just like disappeared. Just said like, hey, or didn't even say anything, just ghosted. Said I didn't say anything and just didn't respond to him for a while. So he kept trying to respond and trying to talk to her and everything, and she never would say anything. And then finally, I think it was like a couple weeks, maybe a month later or something, she responded, and it was like, hey, I never actually wanted to talk to you. I was just playing. Like, I don't actually like you. I think you're dumb, and just like said a bunch of stuff to this young guy, and was saying like, I never actually wanted to do anything romantic. I didn't actually like you, and basically just made him feel terrible. And at that point, he had struggled with mental health in the past, and he got to the point where he was so depressed and so anxious. He went and he told me, he was like, I got to the point where I was sitting on the side of the bed, and I went and found my dad's gun, and I was sitting on the side of the bed, and I was about ready to kill myself. And he said, I couldn't do it, and I think that was the Lord. I believe that was the Lord keeping him from doing that. But he said, that's how low I felt, just because I got into this relationship, and it started out as a silly prank. That's all. It just started out as a silly prank, and that could have been stopped a multitude of ways. But that's just a young teenage guy. It's an example of a young teenage guy that just gets into the wrong thing and doesn't know how to handle it and doesn't know where it can go. So that's a lesson for the youth, but also a lesson for the parents, that we need to keep an eye on this and know what happens. Know what happens on our kids' phones. I have another example of a young guy that was sending. There was a girl that knew about the message, and she knew of some churches and knew of some guys, and figured, you know what, I can probably take advantage of this, and basically struck up a romantic relationship with a bunch of young guys in the message that were good guys, and got them to send really inappropriate pictures to her over Snapchat. So then she saved those pictures and blackmailed the guys, said, hey, I'm going to tell your message church, I'm going to send these to all people in your message church, these pictures, and show them what you did unless you pay me $500 or something like that. And so, something that starts out, seeming like a simple relationship or something that can easily be hidden, Snapchat is a really easy place to hide things. And there's a lot of places in social media where it's easy to hide things, but Snapchat is especially easy to hide things and keep things secret. That's another example of just something, understanding the risk and understanding the danger of what's out there for your kids, and not just for your kids, but even if you're a young adult, myself included. There's a lot of things to get into out there that we do not need to be into. So if you haven't been paying attention, which is totally fine, if you wanted to take a nap, do pay attention right now, because this is kind of what this means in our spiritual. This is kind of bringing it back to the spiritual. So let's go back to the basics real quick. So as believers, our goal is to have a relationship with God. That's what we need. That's what gets us home, is a relationship with Jesus Christ. When we get there, we need Jesus to say, I know you and I know him, right? In order to do that, we have different ways of communicating and keeping in touch with the Lord, right? We have prayer. Brother Branham said, if you can do nothing else, pray. If you can do absolutely nothing else, you need to pray. So that's number one. We also need to study. We should be reading our Bibles. We should be reading the message, right? And we also need to go to church. That's how we fellowship. We need to go to camps. We need to do this because we get to fellowship with other wonderful believers, and we get fellowship that strengthens us. Iron sharpens iron. So these are kind of the core principles of believers and what we need to be doing in order to strengthen and keep that relationship with the Lord open, right? And keep that relationship healthy. All three of these things require three other things: time, a little bit of effort, and you also got to have the right attitude in order for these to be effective. So if we look at these, we got time, attitude, effort. And think about this, think about Enoch, right? So the Bible said that Enoch walked with God. So, and he was translated, right? He was raptured away. So in order for Enoch to walk with God and put himself in that position for God to be able to take him away, he had to go for a walk. Well, what do you need to go for a walk? You need a little bit of time, right? You got to be able to actually go outside and, have some time between meetings to go and take a walk. He also loved God. He took a walk because he loved God. He wanted to go talk to him. He wanted to go be with him. He loved him. He had the right attitude towards God. He had the right mindset. But then the last thing is he had to actually physically lift up his foot and go for a walk, right? He had to put in a little bit of effort to get there and actually go walk with God. So all of these distractions and all of the issues that I was talking about earlier, these are constant distractions that attack all three of these things. These three things that we need to do to have a relationship with Christ and to do these things, these are all affected by what we do on our devices. Not just the phone, but any device, anything online, anything that distracts us. Distraction is the key word. That's kind of like the theme of Laodicea, right? Is distraction, entertainment, and just like not having to think about things. It's what I want to do. It's what I want to look at. It's what I want to be. Whatever I want to do, I can do it. It's distraction. So, and like these algorithms, and I don't just want to pick on the algorithm, but I do kind of want to pick on the algorithm. These are designed to take our time, and they're designed to capitalize on things that the people building them are not trying to capitalize on them. I believe that the devil is using kind of our society and money and like the love of money to build these things and push these things into our lives. But an algorithm can take advantage of our temptations, because remember I said like there's dwell time on a phone, right? So you can be scrolling and you can see, maybe you see a picture with a model in it, and as a guy you pause and you're like, oh, I know I shouldn't click on that, but you paused, so there's a little bit of dwell time there. So it figured out that you dwelled on that, you thought about it, you wanted to click on it. Maybe you didn't, but you wanted to click on it. So the algorithm says, ooh, you know what? He might like that. Let's try a different one on the same thing and give him that again. Maybe he'll click on it this time, and then we'll get more engagement. It's designed to increase your engagement, right? So then it's going to give you another picture, and then you've got to deal with that same temptation again. Now you've got to keep fighting that same battle over and over and over again the longer you scroll. So like the algorithms and the platforms and the constant distraction is designed to keep us entertained and distracted. which this often leads to an addiction, which then leads to more distraction and more, like I said, the same people who design casinos are also designing a lot of these applications. So it's designed to lead to an addiction and keep us in that state of distraction, right? So they take advantage of our human nature and our fallen nature. And if, like I said earlier, if the majority of users and influencers that are affecting these algorithms are not believers, then all the content that we're seeing is probably not going to be content that believers should be looking at, right? And again, just take stock in your head of like what you've seen over the last week in your feeds and in the news and everything, and think if it all lines up with the verse in Philippians, whatever those things are true, whatever things are holy and clean, right? And then one note to keep in mind is that adults are vulnerable. We're all vulnerable, but children and teens are particularly vulnerable because they don't fully know how to, like, our brains don't actually stop developing until 21, 25, something like that. So they don't fully know how to separate fiction from reality. Some kids grow up a little faster than others. It depends. You got to know your own kids. But they don't fully know how to say no and resist that temptation. Like what's happening with addictions and with algorithms and everything, what's happening is very, very powerful and it's very specific. They're very specifically trying to build an addiction that keeps you coming back to these applications. So in doing that, they are they're not necessarily looking and saying, hey, what effect does this have on children? They don't really care. Now there's like some regulations that they're trying to say, hey, you need to think about how this affects kids, but I wouldn't trust that. This is whatever is getting done by these companies to try to build addictions. That's happening to adults. It's also happening to kids and teens, and that's much harder to undo. And kids and teens can get much more wrapped up into their phones and get much more addicted to their phones than we can as adults, because we have a little bit more of we've seen a little bit more. We know how to say no. We are able to look down the line and say, okay, if I do this, it's going to lead to this and this and this. But kids don't necessarily have that experience yet to say, okay, if I keep looking at my phone and I keep spending 4 or 5 hours a day on my phone, then it's going to lead to this, and I'm going to get bad grades, and then it could be this, and blah, blah, blah. They can't really see that yet. So as parents, it's kind of, you are the wall between, you are the wall and the guide that helps them realize that and helps to keep them on that right track. And this is just another thing. I have so much respect for parents. This is just another thing that parents have to think about, because this is just the world we live in. So if we go back to those basics and we take what we just talked about, we now know that the goal of the enemy is to capture our time, right? So the more time you spend without God, the more your attitude starts to align to the things that are not of God. And then the harder it becomes to take that physical effort, to do that physical effort. The harder it becomes to put in effort, which then, once you put in that effort, that gets you into God's attitude and makes it easier to spend time with Him, right? But if you don't put in the effort, it's harder to put in the effort now, and it's harder to spend longer amounts of time with Him. You're like, you know what? I don't really feel like going on a walk. I'm good. I'll do it later. That's kind of what this starts building, is it starts building a habit of not doing the things that we need to do and doing the things that feel good, the things that distract us, the things that keep our minds off of the important things. Maybe you've had a rough day and you're like, I just want to sit down and want to watch YouTube. I want to watch my favorite YouTube guy. Well, I've been there too. Believe me, I've been there too. YouTube is my issue. I got rid of Instagram and Snapchat and all that. Those are fine, but yeah, YouTube is a tough one. Because I watch a lot of engineering videos. I love things that I love learning things. I love watching things, but it takes up so much time. And then the more time you spend, the less time you want to go read your Bible, and the less time you're like, oh, well, okay, I'll just read my Bible for 5 minutes. And then you read it for 5 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm done. And then you pull up your phone, and you're back to YouTube, right? So that's kind of that's what keeps happening with us, right? So if the enemy can't directly defeat you, he knows that he can't defeat you. He will keep you distracted long enough to pull you out of sync with God and to affect that relationship that you have with God, right? So if you, if you keep if you keep giving time and space to the devil, he will keep you distracted. And I think of it like this. If we're all supposed to be on the same page and we're all supposed to have a relationship with God in order to go in the rapture, right? Then the amount of time we spend on our phone, is this keeping us all from the rapture? Not necessarily because we're not believers anymore, but just because we're not in tune enough with God, because we're not spending enough time with him, right? So maybe this is not necessarily defeating us, but it's keeping us from full victory, right? So we really have to be proactive in fighting this battle. We need to chase the Lord. We've got to put in some effort, some extra effort. We've got to chase his attitude. And then once we do, he can do whatever he wants in your life. All kinds of victory and all kinds of great things can come from this. And no generation has been through a battle like this. There's never been an issue quite like this before. To this extent, it used to be, things were cold or hot. You either drank or you didn't drink. It was either yes or no. Yes, you should do this thing. No, you can't do that thing. If you do this, this will happen. If you don't, that'll happen. But it's not like that anymore. Now we fight this battle of distraction where that line between right and wrong is now really, really blurry. And we can't really take the lines for granted anymore. You can't really say, well, okay, I should use Instagram, but I shouldn't use Facebook. Well, no, maybe I should use Facebook, and I shouldn't use. Where exactly is the line now? Where's the line between distracted and not distracted? Where's the line between I have a good relationship with God and I don't have a good relationship with God? If you don't know where the line is, then you've got to work extra hard to make sure you're across the line, right? So if you don't know where the line is between good relationship with God and bad relationship with God, then you need to make sure that you're spending less time with the enemy and more time with God. And you have to put some extra effort into that. So the answer to this, we kind of already got here, but the answer to this is, wouldn't you know it, the Lord sent a prophet, and he gave us some pretty good advice about this. He said the tactics of reasoning is what Satan used, and that's what he's always used, is reasoning. And I've skipped down. He said any enemy that reasons against, or any person, any church, any organization, any individual that reasons against one punctuation of God's word. Think about one punctuation of God's word. How many of those reels and shorts and posts and everything have you looked at that are probably one punctuation of God, against God's word, right? It takes the word to defeat the enemy. That's it. It takes the word to defeat the enemy. So remember that all these algorithms, all these social media platforms, they're designed to steal your time. Your time is valuable, right? We need the word, and the word takes time to study. Right? So we have this one thing that wants to steal our time, but we have this other goal that we need to meet that takes the same commodity, this commodity of time. They're needed by both sides, right? The more we prioritize one side, the easier it becomes to ignore the other. The more time you spend watching YouTube, the easier it is to say, I'll read my Bible tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll pray a little bit longer tomorrow, or I'll do that later. But on the flip side, if you just put down your phone for a day, you take a fast, say, I'm just going to put down my phone for a whole day, and I'm going to spend that with God. You say, I'm going to pray, I'm going to read my Bible, I'm going to spend time this evening not watching any movies, not watching any shows, I'm going to read a message book, I'm going to read my Bible, I'm going to listen to a sermon. The more you do that, the easier it becomes to ignore the distractions, right? So, it's all about your time. The devil knows that he can get your time. Now, the distractions are never going to go away. This is always going to be here. The internet's always going to be there. There's always going to be something to entertain you. And let me be clear, not all entertainment is bad. I don't want you to go away thinking like, I need to check my phone. We need to have our phones, right? And it's okay to have a little bit of entertainment. We have a good time with each other. There's clean and wholesome things out there to learn and watch and spend time with. But we need to take stock in ourselves of what we're doing, how much time we're spending on this, and how it affects our relationship with Christ. And then just lean the ship more that direction, right? So we kind of already said this. But let's go back. Remember how he said, the more time you spend, the harder it is to take some effort and actually walk with God? Well, let's turn this around. This is now what we need to do. Our goal is to have a relationship with God. Relationships take time. You don't get married overnight. At least I hope you don't get married overnight. It takes time to build a relationship and really get to know somebody, right? And for us to get to heaven and for God to say, I know you and we know him, that takes time to build that. So the more time you spend with God, the more your attitude starts to align towards the things of God, because God now has time to work with you. God now has time to change your attitude and change your mindset and change how you think about him. And if you say no, I love you, Lord, I want to love you more. When you say that and you make the effort and you put in the effort, God will reward you with that. He will give you the answer to your prayer and what you want. The more effort, the more time you spend, then the easier it becomes to put in effort. So that first day, it's tough to put down your phone and say, I really don't want to fast from my phone. I really want to look at YouTube. I really, really want to watch a YouTube video. I don't really feel like putting any effort to read my Bible. But as soon as you start reading your Bible, you just put in a little bit of time. You have a little bit of discipline, a little bit of, you grow up a little bit. Have a little bit of self-discipline. You read your Bible. You say, I want to know more about the Lord. As soon as you do that, then slowly starts to become easier. That little bit of effort that you need to put in, what was so hard and what used to be difficult, putting in, putting down your phone and really wanting to watch YouTube, and now becomes a little bit easier to open up your Bible and to listen to a whole sermon, right? And the more you do that, the more God is able to work on your attitude and make it easier and just really work with you. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful loop. So some other things you can do, some practical things, is to start untraining your brain to always want things quickly. I don't know how many of you know Brother Trevor Eamon, but he said one time, he said, for some reason, God chose to bring an end-time message to us through a prophet, through tape recordings. We've got movies, we've got shorts, we've got reels, we've got all this technology now, but God chose that to talk to us. That's long content. That's called long-form content. So it takes time to ingest the whole thing, right? But now, reels and posts and everything like that, we can get to the point, we can get to the end of the story in 90 seconds. So by constantly doing this over and over again, we've trained our mind and we've trained our brain to say, okay, I need to get to the point within 90 seconds. I need to get there faster. So sitting down and listening to a sermon, that now feels like, oh, it's going to take so much time. Because it does. It takes a while to get there. It takes a while to get to the point. But we have to learn to enjoy the process and enjoy God's process. He wants to spend time with us. And we need to appreciate that and appreciate that for what it is. It hurts. It's not fun. It takes a little bit of effort. But that's what God wants us to do. We have to be very intentional. And the final thing I'll leave with you is we need to pray. Most importantly, like Brother Brandon said, if we can do nothing else, we need to pray. Pray for help with the things that you're not good at. If you're really addicted to this and you really want this, come on, Brother Dick. If you really want this, or if you really want to get better at this, pray for it. Ask God for it. And then pray for God to help you with the things you're not good at. Pray for him to meet you, because Brother Brandon said, when you take one step towards him, he takes one step towards you. So he can't do that until you take that step towards him. So you pray and ask for him to meet you, and you ask him to change your attitude. If you don't feel like it, if you don't feel like you love him, I don't really know what loving the Lord means. Pray for that. Ask for that. He hears that. And then just take that one little step. Just start with 5 minutes reading your Bible. Start with 10. Keep going a little bit more. God will open up and he'll give that to you. Brother, you can come on up. I have some stuff for parents here as well, and kind of some other items here for parents. I know we're short on time, so
Yeah, what I wanted to do was open the floor up for your questions before we run out of time, because this is such a deep, vast subject. There's a lot of things that go into this, and I'm going to start with the first question. How they say you send pictures and you delete your pictures, but are those pictures really deleted, or are they like in a holding spot or something like that?
Good question. Sometimes they are actually deleted, but Yeah, not always. So whenever you post something on, basically have the mindset that whenever you put something out on the internet, it's probably going to be out there forever. Just go ahead and make that assumption, because there are, like I said, there's a lot of people trying to figure out what people like to do on the internet. So there are these pieces of software that actually look, basically scan the internet and scan social media for all of the pictures that have been posted, and they basically take one big picture of all the posts that have been posted and save them. So even if you delete something that was on that big picture, it's still on that big picture. They're not going to delete that. So that's still out there. So things like Snapchat, something like that, those actually do get deleted. Like, you can't get those back. Snapchat may be keeping them for analysis purposes. We don't know. But they look like they're deleted and nobody else can access them. But again, if you have sent it, you can't take it back. Once you hit send, you can't fully take that back. There's always a chance that somewhere somebody has seen it. So yeah, never rely on it.
Thank you. Anybody else got a question? The little baby's got a question.
Does the social media like track like what you watch, what you post, and stuff like that?
Yep, it tracks pretty much anything you do on there. So if you scroll, if you click, if you watch a movie, if you're watching a YouTube video, it shows how much of it you watched and how far you scrolled through it, what you did and didn't watch, what you skipped, everything about what you watched, everything about what you used, all of it. It's tracking all. It's tracking as much as you can. And it's pretty easy to build that stuff. Like a good engineer could probably build a tracker that tracks how far you scroll. They could build that in 15, 20 minutes probably. All that stuff is pretty easy to build with today's technology. Hey,
Oh.
Okay, we're now using a lot of AI to create stuff, monitor stuff, and also to be able to track people's behavior. So shouldn't people be very, very careful what sites they visit and what they look at? Because if they create a profile of you, you become a target by that artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I love what you said about them creating a profile of you. That's exactly what companies do whenever they're trying to put people in buckets. They create a profile and say, this person is, like, they look at me and they say, he's 27 years old, he's a male, he's clicked on these 3 things, he's visited these sites. Here's like a profile picture, a profile image of Lukas, right? So they are absolutely doing that. And a lot of the sites you visit, they have like agreements with each other, so they'll share information back and forth and sell information back and forth. So, you get a lot of those spam texts that says, "Hey, I saw your profile. I'd like to, offer you a job," or something like that. It's like $1 million a day. All of those texts, those numbers come from somewhere. That information, like all your information, those profiles, sometimes those profiles about you can get sold to other companies without you knowing it. So all of that information, everything that you do, not always everything that you do, but a lot of times, most of it is tracked or traceable in some way. A lot of what you do can be tracked and communicated to other places, other companies, stuff like that. Really good.
Hopefully I didn't miss it, but did you touch on how social media and how can influence older people in their finances?
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It can. That's actually a really good point. I never thought about. As folks get older, and like as you have diseases or issues like Alzheimer's or dementia or things like that, sometimes things that are not as real, or very easy for us to distinguish between reality, sometimes for an old person can it's very difficult to distinguish from reality if they have an issue like dementia or something like that. So yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot that will take advantage of. Um, it's not an unknown fact that and once you retire, then you've got all your retirement income coming in and everything. So that is absolutely a market that some people like to sell to, and they will specifically market to those groups of people. So yeah, they might see ads for like specific things that wouldn't be relevant to me or to you or something like that, but they are specifically marketed to. And if they're not careful with where they're putting their information, or maybe they don't know that like we're putting our information out on the internet, like I'm giving them my social security number, maybe they don't realize that that's not a good thing to do, just because they haven't like been told that or anything. That can get sold around and sent places and used against them, used to market towards them again. So yeah, really good point. Aaron.
I think, is it working? Is it working? All right. I think the other point that she was trying to bring up is, how we try to make good financial decisions. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I say the other point that I think she was trying to make is, we try to make good decisions about our finances, how much we spend money, how we stay within our budget. So if you spend a lot of time on the internet, you're going to see a lot of ads, and that's going to influence you to do like impulse buying, right? And then maybe you end up in debt and try to buy a car that you can afford just because of the influence of the algorithm. I think that's the other point that she was bringing.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. That's kind of like the end result of what we were talking about, right? So when you have influencers that want to make money, and then you've got, the end result is to make money, right? Well, how do they make money? How do influencers make money? They make money off of ads and putting more ads on there. Well, how does the ad actually make money? Well, it only works if they buy something. So if you show the ad to 1 million people, and only 100 buy, or 1,000 buy whatever you were trying to sell on your ad. That's really powerful. So yeah, I actually watched a video the other day on pay. What are they called? Can't remember what they're called, but it's like Klarna and those tools that let you. Yeah, pay later. Buy now, pay later. Totally blank. Buy now, pay later. That's a big deal because you really, really want the thing, and influencers like, hey, you need to have this now. Like I love this thing. This is the best thing I've ever bought in my entire life. And then so you need to go buy it right now, but you don't have a budget for it. So then you go do a buy now, pay later, and then they have that option available. And then before long, you've bought a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden you have these payments coming up that you didn't. You're like, oh, I forgot I bought that. Maybe it's interest free, but it's still you have bought so much that it now cripples you down the line. So that can be very, very dangerous. It's a really good point.
So my question is, are the phones really listening to what we're speaking? Because if I want to find something, like say I want to buy a t-shirt, I will speak about it. So when I open my phone, the ad is there so I can click on it and buy it. So is it actually listening to what we say, or is it that maybe I've scrolled somewhere for it before?
Great question and loaded question, and one that even I am still curious about. The answer to your question is actually, technically, yes. Your phone is always listening to you, because I can say, hey Siri, and Siri pops up, right? So it's always listening to whatever is happening around you and knows that you're saying stuff, right? So it's always listening. And actually there was a recent lawsuit for Siri where it was triggering and listening and recording stuff that it wasn't supposed to be recording. And so there was all this data that was kept from Siri recording you and not properly deleting that and misusing that. So whether or not it's actually being used to suggest things, that's been like tested a lot of times, and it really, really, really looks like it is. It really looks like it is, because I think my brother did a test one time. He was like, we're not going to do anything else. We're not going to look up anything else. We're not going to do anything else. I'm just going to put my phone in the room, and we're just going to say the word diapers. And we're just going to see what pops up. And sure enough, they did that. They just kept saying, like, diapers, and that's it. And sure enough, they started getting some ads for, like, some baby stuff and diapers and stuff. So there's a lot of tests like that have gone on that indicate that somewhere in the background, I think there's some information selling that, just, we may not know about and just may be kept very, very quiet. So again, I would not trust it. But I don't have any like actual evidence from a company to prove that, so I can't say that. But sure feels like it is. Go ahead.
I got a problem for all the elders. They're aggravated like I am with Medicare. From the time I get up to the most lay down, one call after another. Medicare, we need to increase your Medicare, and it gets so bad we let the kids talk to her. And then my wife said, "Is you a robot?" And they just blap. But the kids talk to them. How old are you? 4. Blap. You know what I'm saying? That's a situation we can curb.
Yeah, I hear you. That's a really big issue nowadays, and it's super annoying. It's dangerous, but it's also super annoying. Like, it takes up so much of our day. And so what happens is your number gets spread across a lot of different online databases and stuff like that. There are actually some tools that you can use called like Delete Me and a couple others that actually scan the internet for your information and your phone number and stuff like that and try to get rid of them for you so that you don't get as many of those annoying spam calls. But they know that that's an issue. They can call somebody that may not know that a spam call is a thing and says like, "Oh, Medicare's calling me. I need to do whatever they're saying. I need to give them my social security number." That's a really really big issue, really dangerous thing. Brother Chisholm, you have something? Right. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, sometimes I'll look up things, probably on YouTube, concerning medical issues. You'll have one say, well, it's good to eat fruits, vegetables, and whatever for this condition, not to eat this. Then you'll have another one that'll say the complete opposite for the same condition. I just wanted to say that is because you have to be so careful, prayerful, most of all, in even trying to get advice from, because you don't know which ones are really credible or not. It can be an issue or whatever, in any kind of condition. I'm just saying that. And even if you want to know how to start a motor or something, I'm just giving an example. One will tell you this, the other one will tell you that. It's just so much, you just don't know. A lot of times, that's just to pray and ask the Lord to lead you. I just want to.
Absolutely. I love that. And the answer is prayer. Yeah, you're right. And like I said earlier, influencers are not necessarily bound to tell you the truth, right? They just can tell you whatever they want. Maybe it's with good intentions, but it may not be right. So, always, stick to your doctor if you can. Stick to trusted sources, not just some random person on the internet. That's always a good rule. And prayer, number 1.
Okay, so mine is a question and also something I want to say. So sometimes the internet doesn't give you what you want, like what you're looking for. Because I usually go on the internet, look for like how to improve my business because I'm a businesswoman. So I usually try to look for ads that will help improve the business. But instead, it gives me something that I don't want, like relationship advice, stuff like that. But it's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is tips on improving business. So how can I get more of that instead of what I don't want?
That's a great question. There's a few different ways. At some point, actually, I forgot to mention this earlier. You know how we say we can train our algorithm, right? You can't actually train your algorithm. You can just give it some information about, some more information about you. You can try to help it build a profile about you, like we were talking about, but you can't actually train your algorithm. There are some ways, though. There's some apps that use information like I think you can go into Facebook and Instagram in the settings, and you can see it'll tell you like, hey, we think you like these categories, and you can actually uncheck those categories and change them, and change the kind of content that you want to see. Sometimes in Google Chrome, like Chrome is where you get a lot of ads, right? Chrome and YouTube, Google, stuff like that. If you go into, it's kind of hidden in there, but if you go into the settings in your Google profile, and you're in like way deep in your settings, sometimes you can see stuff about yourself and like basically what it thinks you want to see, and you can change that and either delete things, or sometimes it'll let you add more content in there to give you the right thing. So there are some ways, but you usually just have to dig into the settings. Like if you're using a specific app like Chrome or YouTube or something, really dig into the settings and see what's in there. Also, anything that you save, anything that you bookmark, all of that kind of stuff helps contribute as well. So like go through old bookmarks, go through old things that you've saved, in your online profiles and stuff. That's really helpful too. So it takes a little bit of time, unfortunately, to do that. Other than just like deleting your account and restarting it, which is not ideal. But just dive into those settings. There's usually some settings in there that are hidden. They just don't tell everybody about them. So, but they're in there. Sometimes.
I just want to say this for all parents, but mostly parents of the younger kids. We had incidents a few years ago. There was an email that was sent out to like teachers, a warning us, just kind of letting us know like if kids come to school like distraught. There were like videos, kids videos, but embedded, it was some evil character that would pop up. So that's just something that I've always been aware of. My kids are a little bit older, we're dealing with other issues, but when they were younger, like just watching maybe a nursery rhyme, you just have to be careful because they could start with the, wheels on the bus go round and round, and in the middle of that video, it may just pop up to something like pornography or something evil, or just something that, is inappropriate. So that's just something that we've always been, careful.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's always more meaningful hearing that from a parent than from some random guy sitting up here at the front. That's a great point. And got one more question back there? Right here. Which is
Okay. I also, along with what Brother Shaw was saying, it's a known fact. Just the other day I was coming home and it just pops up, and they remind me, that I'm getting older, that I got a birthday coming up. And like, wow, how did they know all those things? And also, about a month ago, the Lord really laid on my heart to just put my phone down. So when I did that, the only thing I love gospel song. So I listened to that song that was edifying, to just not any song, but I love gospel song. So I did that. And the only thing I was listening at was the message of the hour. And you talking about super strength like no other. It helped my ministry, but sometimes it could be a struggle. But it's also what you said, we have to be willing to take that walk every day. Yeah.
Yep. Amen. Couldn't say any better. That's exactly right. Got to be willing to do that.
All right, Lucas. So which apps for parents should we really make sure our kids do not have? That's question number one. And also, I'm not good with social media, so how do I know when my kids get a new app, if it's good, bad? How do we control that?
Thank you, Brother Sam. Perfect segue. I only got 1 minute for this last question. 5? Okay, all right. The parents are the line of defense for your kids in this day and age. You are the wall between the world and all the filth of the world and your home. And so it's up to you to set the right atmosphere and make sure that you're having the right discussions with your kids and make it easy to spend time with God, right? If your kids are going to see something evil or see something wrong, like Sister was saying, it pops up so easily, so quickly, it pops up just like that, and you have no time to react. It's when. So having conversations with your kids early about like, this is what pornography is, this is what this thing means, this is what gambling is. Having those conversations so they know that, before they get to it. You want to be the expert and tell them what they're going to see before somebody else tells them what they're seeing, right? So more to Brother Sam's point here, the answer is there's no platform that is really immune from this. Look for a platform that has some parental controls where you can see what they're doing. So there's a few apps that are, and I don't have them off the top of my head because it's very, very new that they've come out with. I think there's some like Instagram that have come out with some parental controls where you can see what your kids are doing, what they're clicking on, and you have control over what they're able to see. Now, I wouldn't completely trust that, but basically if there's any kind of app like that that has unrestricted access, or any app that allows direct messaging, so which most of them do nowadays, unfortunately, like Instagram, you can DM somebody. Part of Instagram's parental controls, I think, are geared towards not allowing DMing. So you can restrict who gets to send messages to them, right? So restricting that direct interaction is important. Restricting the type of content is important. If there's no parental controls, or there's no, if you, like, say your kid says, hey, I really want to have an Instagram account, or I really want to have a Facebook account, you gotta look at that application, look and see if there's any type of parental control or content control of any kind. And if there's not, if it's basically like, yeah, anybody can use our app and it's free, anybody can do whatever they want, stay away from that one. If there's no kind of guard or control put up whatsoever, that's one to stay away from. So like Snapchat's a good example, not really a lot of, I think there's some parental controls in there, but they're a little bit not that great. So those are the ones, any that allow like unrestricted free access to searching or to like suggestions from any kind of category of content, or direct messaging. Those are kind of the ones to stay away from, which is a lot of them, unfortunately. But making sure that you, one point I put on here somewhere is if you make an account on Instagram because your kid's also making an account on Instagram, they're going to be seeing something completely different from what you're seeing because they're in a different bucket. You're never going to get put in the same bucket as them. So you're never going to get suggested the same things or be able to see that, see what they're seeing. And then the other thing, I think we've discussed it before too, which you guys probably already know. If your child's heart is not in the right place, then that's something to keep in mind before you give them unrestricted free access to the things of the world. If their heart is like, you're not really sure where they are at spiritually, giving them access to all of the wrong spirits in the world is not really going to help their spiritual walk, right? And so again, you want to create that environment that's where it's easy for the Lord to work, and a difficult environment for the devil to make a stronghold. And that is early access to the internet and early access to social media and stuff like that is a very easy place for things like pornography to sneak in and just slowly creep in and make a very slow stronghold in somebody's mind. As somebody that's been through that, it's very, very easy to do. And it so easily creeps in. So evaluate your child's heart and make sure they're mature enough to deal with the platforms that you're giving them. So look at the controls themselves on the app. As far as like one to stay away from, that's kind of tough. Ones like Instagram and Facebook, and I don't like Snapchat. Again, it's just really easy to keep secrets on Snapchat. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't have many more recommendations for one to stay away from. But just, again, keep an eye on the parental controls and what their verbiage is around like what kids get suggested. Yeah, the only other piece of advice I have are staying informed as much as you can about the applications and the devices that your kids are using. Also, really important to keep an open environment with your kid and talk about things. Make it easy for them to bring things up to you and to talk about things with you. Again, you want to be the expert on something like pornography. You don't want somebody else to tell them what pornography is. You want to be the expert so that when they have questions and say, like, hey, what is this thing that I saw? You can tell them and you can set the tone. You have control over that entire situation, which is, godly control over that entire situation because your home is the safe place, right? So keep that open environment with your kids as much as possible. And yeah, the top point, like I already mentioned, it does take a little bit of research. In software, this is the last thing I'll say, Brother Diggs. In software, we call this the principle of least privilege. So you have access to the bare minimum that you need access to. And then from there, we add on things. You don't give them everything and then say, oops, shouldn't have given them access to that, and then try to pull off things, because you can't really do that. You need to start from the core and say, like, all right, do they need to communicate with somebody? Yes, okay. Let's give them, I don't know, an email address. I know the kids are not gonna like that, but you give them an email address, they can send emails. Or maybe it's like an old iPod or something like that where they can send iMessages, but you have something set up where the iMessages go through you first, something like that. So at least privilege first, and then you gradually give privilege as they become more mature and as they show that they are worthy of that responsibility. That's all I've got.
Praise the Lord. Hey, Cadre, I got some announcements. Right quick. Just a few announcements. Scooters and golf carts, they're for staff only unless you brought your own. So no one sharing golf carts with campers if you're on any type of staff team or scooters. Clean up as you go. As you walk around the camp, if you're eating chips, snacks, drinks, or whatever the case is, make sure you throw them in the trash can and don't just leave them on the ground. There's trash cans throughout the camp, so we can help kind of keep the camp clean. If we clean as we go, it won't be that much to do at the end. Dining room, after you finish eating, all your plates and stuff go to that front right of the dining room. There's a man in there. You empty your plate out in the trash. You give him your plate. So if you're getting up and you're done eating and you're getting ready to go back out, make sure you clean up after yourself. Field day activities. The field day is going to be at 2:30, and it's going to be right across from the cabin. So if you come out the church here and you look to your left where concessions is, field day will be in that little field area right there. So that's it, just a few announcements.
We have kids camp going at, we kind of running over on time. So everybody in kids camp, you head that way right now in this moment. And in this building, we're going to break for about 10 minutes to allow Brother Sam to set up. What happened? 5 minutes? Okay, we're going to break for about 5 minutes.